Beneath the sands of Saqqara rests a secret lost for thousands of years. This is the story of the relentless search for the tomb of Imhotep, the genius who designed the first pyramid and was later worshipped as a god. By the end of this journey, you will understand why finding his burial could rewrite everything we know about ancient Egypt. We will follow the clues left on ancient stones and explore the high-tech tools now scanning the earth for his hidden chamber. How does a mortal man achieve such legendary status that his very grave becomes one of history's greatest mysteries? What does it truly mean to seek a man who became a deity? The man himself was a chancellor, a high priest, and the chief architect for Pharaoh Djoser. But these titles barely scratch the surface of his true impact. Imhotep was the mastermind behind the step pyramid at Saqqara, a structure that dared to challenge the very limits of what was possible. Before this moment, royal tombs were simple mounds of mud brick known as mastabas. Imhotep envisioned something far grander, a staircase to the heavens built not from mud, but from enduring stone. He stacked 6 of these mastabas, each smaller than the last, creating a colossal geometric mountain that reached for the sky. This was not just a new building, it was the world's first large-scale stone construction, a spark that ignited the entire age of pyramids. With one revolutionary design, Imhotep changed the landscape of architecture forever, setting a precedent for immortality carved in stone. Yet his genius was not confined to engineering. Ancient texts also credit him as a physician, a man of profound wisdom and healing. This unique combination of skills, the ability to build for eternity and to heal the human body, fueled his legend for centuries after his death. Slowly, over more than 1,000 years, the mortal vizier was transformed. He became a god, revered as the patron of medicine and wisdom, a divine scribe, and a son of Ptah. This deification is the very reason his physical tomb remains so elusive and so deeply desired. To find the final resting place of Imhotep would be to bridge a monumental gap, to uncover the earthly remains of a man who achieved the impossible and was ultimately worshipped for it. It would mean finding not just a tomb, but the point where humanity and divinity collided. This transformation from royal architect to divine being is one of the most extraordinary in human history. How does a mortal man cross that ultimate threshold? The process was not sudden, but a slow, cultural tide that rose over more than 1,000 years. By the time of the New Kingdom, centuries after his death, Imhotep was no longer just a memory. He was revered as a god, the son of the great creator deity Ptah, and a powerful source of healing and wisdom. People did not merely remember him, they worshipped him, building shrines and leaving offerings in hopes of his intercession. We have tangible proof of this widespread devotion. A stone slab known as the Louvre Mastaba, for instance, depicts a man and his family praying fervently to a deified Imhotep. It is a personal snapshot of faith, frozen in stone. This was not an isolated act. Pilgrims traveled to sites associated with his life and legend, particularly around Saqqara, treating these places as sacred ground. This cult following is the crucial clue that changes everything about the search for his tomb. For a god, a final resting place is not a secret to be kept, but a destination to be celebrated. His tomb would not have been a hidden hole designed to evade robbers. It would have been a major cult center, a temple complex where priests performed daily rites and where pilgrims flocked to seek blessings and cures. This means the potential discovery is far more significant than finding a sealed chamber. It would be the uncovering of a lost place of worship, a spiritual epicenter that echoed with the prayers of thousands. Finding Imhotep's tomb would mean walking into the heart of his legend, a place where the man truly became a god. So where is this sacred temple tomb? The frustrating truth is that despite a century of intense searching, his final resting place remains one of Egypt's most stubborn secrets. This leads us to the core of the mystery. Why has the tomb of a god not been found? 3 compelling theories attempt to solve this puzzle. The first suggests Imhotep's burial was engineered to be permanently invisible, a secret so well kept it has defied every modern technology. The second, more sobering idea is that his tomb was completely plundered and deliberately erased in ancient times. its location scratched from history by rivals or religious reformers. The third, and perhaps most intriguing theory, proposes that we have been looking in the wrong place all along. His tomb might not be a grand, isolated monument. It could be hiding in plain sight, buried deep within the chaotic layers of Saqqara itself. This last possibility highlights the immense physical challenge of the search. Saqqara is not a simple, orderly cemetery. It is a sprawling, multi-layered necropolis used for over 3,000 years. Imagine a city of the dead, where new tombs were constantly built on top of, or even right through, older ones. Pharaohs, nobles, and sacred animals were all interred here across dozens of dynasties. A tomb from the time of Imhotep could be sealed under 50 feet of sand and later rubble, or its entrance might be concealed by the wall of a much newer temple. This is not a needle in a haystack. It is a specific needle in a mountain of other needles, all piled on top of each other. Every new discovery, like a Roman-era catacomb or a new kingdom official's tomb, merely proves how much history is still compressed beneath the sand, waiting to reveal its oldest and most guarded secret. Saqqara is not merely a graveyard, it is the epicenter of this ancient mystery. This vast plateau overlooking the ruins of Memphis served as the primary necropolis for Egypt's ancient capital for more than 3,000 years. Kings, queens, and countless nobles were laid to rest here, each generation building atop the monuments of the last, creating a dense, vertical tapestry of history. The logic for searching here is undeniable, for this is Imhotep's own domain. He walked these sands and conceived his revolutionary vision here. The Step Pyramid complex was his masterpiece, the very heart of his world. It is almost unthinkable that the architect of such a monument would be buried far from his life's work. His tomb must be close, a secret chamber hidden somewhere within this sacred, crowded landscape. This conviction has drawn archaeologists for well over a century. Auguste Mariette began large-scale excavations here in the 1850s, uncovering the Serapeum and revealing the scale of Saqqara's secrets. His work proved the site was a treasure trove, but it was only the beginning. Decades later, the British archaeologist James Quibble mapped vast areas, while his contemporary Cecil Firth uncovered the pyramid complex of Pharaoh Djoser itself, literally walking in Imhotep's footsteps. Each of these missions peeled back a layer, yet the architect's own resting place remained hidden. In more recent times, the search has intensified under figures like Zahi Hawass, whose teams have made stunning discoveries, from new pyramids to elaborate tombs of high priests. These finds are thrilling, yet they add a layer of profound complexity. Every newly uncovered tomb, every cache of mummified sacred animals, proves just how much is still buried here. The very success of these missions complicates the search, because each discovery shows us how much we have yet to find. It is like searching for one specific room in a city that has been continuously built, demolished, and rebuilt for millennia. The tomb of the man who started it all is still out there, waiting beneath the very stones he first set in place. The first tangible clue in this ancient hunt was not carved in the age of pyramids, but centuries later, on a granite boulder far to the south. On Sehel Island near Aswan, a Ptolemaic king ordered the creation of what is now known as the Famine Stela. This massive inscription tells a dramatic story of a 7-year famine during the reign of Pharaoh Djoser, and it credits Imhotep with finding the solution. The text claims to be a copy of a much older document, a direct decree from Djoser himself, and within its lines lies a tantalizing reference. It mentions a place called the Retreat of Imhotep. This single phrase has fueled the imaginations of explorers for generations. What was this retreat? Was it a temple dedicated to the now deified architect? Could it have been a library housing his vast scrolls of medical and architectural knowledge? Or, most compellingly, was this a poetic name for his final resting place, a sacred retreat in both life and death? The stela itself is a historical puzzle. It was created thousands of years after Imhotep and Djoser had died, leading many scholars to question its accuracy. It is a copy of a copy, a story that may have been embellished over the centuries. Yet, even if the events it describes are legendary, its very existence proves the powerful and enduring memory of Imhotep. The Ptolemaic rulers, who were themselves foreigners ruling Egypt, went out of their way to associate themselves with this legendary Egyptian figure. They believed the connection held power. This means the clue of the retreat cannot be easily dismissed. It represents a genuine tradition, a piece of folklore that points searchers toward a specific, though maddeningly cryptic, location. The stela does not give a map, but it does provide a direction, suggesting that the answer to the mystery of Imhotep's tomb might be found by understanding the places he was most intimately connected to, the places he might have truly called his own. The second clue brings us back to the very heart of his world, the step pyramid complex at Saqqara. Here, near the northern face of the pyramid, archaeologists uncovered a simple but profound artifact. It is the base of a statue, a platform of stone meant to hold a figure of immense importance. Carved into its surface are two names side by side, Pharaoh Djoser and his chief architect, Imhotep. This is not a random graffiti. It is a formal, official inscription, placing the mortal architect in the most sacred company imaginable, right beside his divine king. The statue itself is long gone, likely looted in antiquity, but its base remains as a silent, powerful testament to their relationship. What does this physical proximity truly mean? In ancient Egypt, a statue base was not just a stand. It was a point of contact, a place where the spirit of the person depicted could receive offerings and prayers for eternity. To have your statue placed within the eternal confines of a royal pyramid complex was an honor of the highest order, a privilege almost unheard of for a non-royal person. This was the king's own house for the afterlife, a sealed universe designed solely for his resurrection. So why is Imhotep's name here, carved for eternity within these sacred walls? It strongly suggests that his presence was deemed essential to the pharaoh's eternal journey. Djoser could not conceive of his afterlife without his brilliant vizier by his side. This single stone block fuels a compelling theory. Could Imhotep's own tomb be a hidden annex within the step pyramid's massive enclosure? The complex is not just the pyramid. It is a vast, walled city of the dead, filled with ceremonial courtyards, dummy buildings, and a labyrinth of underground tunnels. What if, secreted within this sacred geometry, lies a chamber reserved for the architect himself? It would be the ultimate honor, a final resting place so intimately connected to his masterpiece that he would forever be part of its magic and its protection. Finding a tomb here would not be like discovering a separate grave. It would be like finding the secret room in a king's palace, a room belonging to the only other person who held the keys. Centuries after the pyramids rose, a new wave of power arrived on the Nile, bringing with them a startling recognition. The Greeks, under the Ptolemies, looked upon the ancient Egyptian pantheon and saw a reflection of their own. They identified the deified Imhotep with their own god of medicine, Asclepius. This was not a simple name swap, but a profound fusion of beliefs. Imhotep Asclepius became a single, powerful entity, a divine physician whose healing power transcended culture and time. This union left a permanent mark on the sands of Saqqara in the form of a structure known as the Asclepieion. Imagine a sprawling sanatorium, a place where the sick and the hopeful would travel for miles. They would come to this sacred complex, perform rituals, and then sleep in special chambers, praying that the god would appear to them in a dream and offer a diagnosis or a cure. This was dream incubation, a direct channel to the divine. The ruins of this Asclepieion still stand today, a testament to the enduring power of Imhotep's legacy. But its location raises a fascinating and critical question for our search. Why was this Greco-Roman healing temple built precisely here, at Saqqara, and not somewhere else in Egypt? This was no random choice. Sacred geography is intentional. It is a powerful clue that the Greeks, who were masterful archivists and inheritors of Egyptian knowledge, may have been building on a pre-existing tradition. They could have been drawn to this specific spot because it was already revered as the epicenter of Imhotep's power. This leads to a tantalizing possibility. Could the entire Asclepieion complex have been constructed directly over the original, and by then already ancient, tomb of Imhotep? The logic is compelling. What better way to harness the sacred energy of a healing god than to build his temple directly atop his earthly remains? If this theory is correct, then the very act of celebrating Imhotep may have inadvertently hidden him. The foundations, walls, and courtyards of the later Greek sanatorium would have sealed and concealed the older, simpler tomb beneath, protecting it from view for 2,000 years. The most obvious place can sometimes be the most secretive, hiding in the shadow of its own legend. These competing theories each offer a distinct path into the mystery. The first suggests Imhotep's tomb is hidden in plain sight within the very walls of his own masterpiece. The step pyramid complex is encircled by a massive, intricately designed enclosure wall, a labyrinth of stone filled with blind passages and dummy buildings. Proponents of this theory argue that the perfect hiding place would be a sealed chamber built directly into the fabric of this great wall. It would be a secret annex, forever watching over the pyramid it helped create, a final honor from a king to his most trusted servant. The logic is beautifully simple. Where better to conceal the architect than within the heart of his own design, a place so obvious it becomes invisible. The second theory descends into the earth, into the shadowy realm of the Serapeum. This is an immense underground network of tunnels and chambers, used for centuries to inter the sacred Apis bulls, animals believed to be living manifestations of the god Ptah. Since Imhotep was later worshipped as the son of Ptah, this connection is powerfully symbolic. Could his sarcophagus rest in a side chamber, a place of supreme sacredness, hidden by the sheer, overwhelming scale of this bovine necropolis? The sheer number of visitors and priests in these catacombs would have made secrecy difficult, but perhaps the most powerful hiding place is one that is constantly visited, yet never truly seen. The third, and perhaps most radical theory, proposes that we have been thinking about this all wrong. What if Imhotep's tomb is not a grand, hidden chamber at all, but a simple, non-royal mastaba, indistinguishable from thousands of others in the older sections of Saqqara? This would be the ultimate camouflage. Before he was a god, he was a man, and a man of his time would have been buried in a mastaba. If his deification happened slowly over centuries, his original, humble tomb might have been left untouched, its true significance forgotten until it was simply buried by the sands of time. Its very simplicity would be its protection, a plain box lost in a city of golden coffins. So the search is not for one thing, but for three possible realities. Is it a secret chamber of honor, a divine niche in a sacred crypt, or a simple grave whose importance faded before it could be remembered? Each theory sends explorers in a different direction, turning every stone with a new question in mind. Yet the mystery deepens when we consider that Saqqara may not hold the final answer. Some scholars propose a far more radical departure, suggesting that Imhotep's tomb could lie in an entirely different location, a deliberate misdirection by the master architect himself. Heliopolis, the legendary center of sun worship, stands as a prime candidate. This city was not just another religious site, it was the intellectual and theological heart of ancient Egypt, and Imhotep served as its high priest. His cult as a god later flourished there for centuries. It seems a perfect symmetry that the deified sage would be laid to rest in the very epicenter of his divine power, surrounded by the priests who served his memory. A tomb here would be a grand temple complex, a place of eternal veneration befitting his status as a son of the gods. The logic is powerful, yet it presents a practical nightmare for archaeologists. Modern Cairo has been built directly over ancient Heliopolis, burying its secrets under miles of urban sprawl and concrete. Finding a single tomb there now would be an almost impossible feat, requiring not just excavation, but the literal dismantling of a modern city. This leads to an even more compelling and speculative idea. What if Imhotep, with his unparalleled understanding of engineering and human nature, engineered his own disappearance? He understood the fate of royal tombs, how they attracted robbers and political upheaval. To truly protect his eternal rest, he might have chosen a location of profound secrecy, a hidden wadi in the barren desert far from any known necropolis. Imagine a tomb with no grand entrance, no marker, a chamber carved into a remote cliff face and then sealed to look like natural rock. This would be the ultimate act of a genius, a final design meant to defy discovery for all time. His resting place would not be a destination for pilgrims, but a secret known only to a trusted few, its location dying with them. This theory forces us to reconsider the very nature of the search. We are not just looking for a tomb, we are trying to outthink one of history's greatest minds, a man who may have planned his own obscurity as his final masterpiece. The question then becomes, did he hide his grave among the crowds of a sacred city, or in the absolute silence of the desert, a secret so perfect it has remained one for nearly 5,000 years? The dusty scent of discovery was thick in the air by the 19th century, as the first great Egyptologists arrived with their maps and their dreams. These were not treasure hunters in the classic sense, but their methods were often just as destructive, driven by a race to fill the museums of Europe. Carl Richard Lepsius led a Prussian expedition in the 1840s, a massive, state-funded endeavor that meticulously recorded monuments across Egypt. His team created stunningly detailed drawings of the step pyramid complex at Saqqara, yet they were essentially cataloging a surface. They were historians, not diggers, and their focus was on the grand inscriptions and obvious structures, not the subtle clues of a hidden tomb. They laid the essential cartographic groundwork, but they walked right over the secrets buried deep beneath their feet. Then came Auguste Mariette, a man whose story reads like an adventure novel. In 1850, he noticed a lone sphinx head poking from the sand at Saqqara. Remembering ancient texts that described an avenue of sphinxes leading to the Serapeum, the tomb of the sacred Apis bulls, he became obsessed. He excavated with a feverish intensity, eventually uncovering that very avenue and breaking into the monumental underground galleries. His discovery was breathtaking, a confirmation of legendary places. But his methods were brutal. To reach the ancient tunnels, his workers often had to smash through later walls and structures, bulldozing through history to reach a prize. He found the giant sarcophagi of the bulls, but in his singular focus, he likely destroyed countless smaller, less obvious chambers and sealed passages without a second thought. Imagine a side room, its entrance concealed by a fragile mud brick wall, being casually demolished to widen a tunnel for easier access. That room could have held anything, including the very clue we seek. These early explorers were pioneers, but their work was a double-edged sword. They revealed the staggering scale of Saqqara, proving it was a literal honeycomb of tombs, but their treasure-oriented approach meant context was often sacrificed for spectacle. They were looking for grand, sealed chambers and museum-worthy artifacts, not the subtle architectural anomalies or the simple, unadorned mastaba that might have belonged to a man before he was a god. They collected statues and stelae, but they rarely documented the precise layer of sand in which an object was found, or what other, seemingly insignificant ruins lay nearby. A potsherd with a faded name, a fragment of a unique carving, a slight depression in the earth suggesting a hidden shaft. All of these vital whispers could have been trampled underfoot or tossed aside as rubble. They laid the groundwork for all future searches by mapping the obvious, but in their relentless pursuit of glory, they may have unknowingly obliterated the subtle trail leading to Imhotep. The dawn of the 20th century brought a new kind of hunt to the sands of Saqqara. The era of the treasure seeker was fading, replaced by the meticulous scientist. Men like Cecil Firth and James Quibble arrived not with dreams of gold, but with brushes, graph paper, and an unwavering patience for detail. Their mission was not merely to find objects, but to understand context. They introduced stratigraphic excavation, the careful peeling back of history one layer at a time. Every shard of pottery, every layer of sand, and every relationship between walls told a story. Firth focused his attention on the step pyramid complex itself. Painstakingly clearing the rubble from around Djoser's monument, he revealed the full grandeur of Imhotep's architectural plan, the courtyards and chapels that made it a city for the dead. Meanwhile, Quibble worked on the broader plateau, mapping the sprawling fields of mastabas that stretched out around the pyramid. Together, they uncovered thousands of artifacts, from simple tools to exquisite statues, building a comprehensive picture of life and death at the dawn of Egyptian history. Their work was slow and methodical, a deliberate archaeology that respected the site as a historical document. It was during this period of systematic search that a tantalizing pattern emerged, the pattern of the near miss. A profound example came decades later with the work of another titan of Saqqara, Jean-Philippe Lauer. This French architect devoted his entire life, over 70 years, to the restoration and study of the Step Pyramid. Lauer did not just study the monument, he rebuilt parts of it, striving to understand the very mind of its creator. He probed every corridor and every shaft within the complex, and in doing so, he came achingly close to the kind of discovery that fuels legends. He discovered a series of 11 deep, vertical shafts leading from the enclosure wall. At the bottom of each, his team found a sealed alabaster sarcophagus. With hearts pounding, they carefully opened one, only to find the remains of a bull. These were not the burials of people, but of the sacred Apis bulls from a much earlier, previously unknown period. It was a staggering find, one that rewrote the history of the animal cult, yet it was not the sarcophagus of the architect. This was the essence of the search for Imhotep, a trail of magnificent red herrings. Every major discovery proved that Saqqara was still capable of yielding earth-shattering secrets, yet each one was a reminder that the ultimate prize remained hidden. The most powerful fuel for hope came from another part of the necropolis. In the 1970s, a team from the Egypt Exploration Society uncovered the tomb of General Hormheb, who would later become pharaoh. This was not a minor official's grave. It was a vast, beautifully decorated tomb complex, lost for millennia and found packed with stunning reliefs. Its discovery sent a clear message to the world. Even in a place as thoroughly picked over as Saqqara, royal quality tombs from the most important periods could still be found completely intact. If Hormheb's tomb had survived unseen for so long, then why not the tomb of someone even more revered? Each near miss was not a failure, but a proof of concept. It solidified the belief that Imhotep's resting place was still out there, waiting for the right brush stroke to sweep away the sand from its final secret. The old methods of brush and trowel are now joined by a silent, electronic orchestra. Modern archaeology has shifted its gaze from the sand underfoot to the screens of computers, deploying a suite of non-invasive technologies that can see through stone and soil. Ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, is one of the most powerful tools in this new arsenal. Think of it as a form of subterranean sonar. A unit is dragged across the ground, sending high-frequency radio pulses deep into the earth. These waves bounce back whenever they hit a change in density, like the empty space of a tomb chamber or the solid stone of a buried wall. The returning signals are then assembled by a computer into a detailed three-dimensional map of the unseen world below, a ghost image of hidden structures. Another key technology is electrical resistivity tomography, often called ERT. This method measures how easily electricity passes through the ground. Dry, compact sand offers high resistance, while a hidden chamber filled with air, or a tunnel holding moisture, offers much less. By planting a grid of electrodes across a site and taking thousands of readings, archaeologists can create a vivid picture of underground voids and anomalies, effectively drawing an X-ray of the entire landscape. From above, drones equipped with LiDAR scanners complete the high-tech picture. By firing millions of laser pulses at the ground, LiDAR can strip away the visual clutter of modern vegetation and surface debris to reveal the subtle, microtopography of the ancient land beneath. It can show the faint outlines of long-buried walls, the ghostly imprint of forgotten roads, and the slight depressions that might mark the entrance to a sealed shaft. These tools have already proven their worth in Saqqara. A major survey using a combination of these techniques revealed a stunning number of previously unknown anomalies. The data showed multiple, deep shafts and what appear to be several large, unexcavated chambers, hiding just beneath the surface of the most studied areas. Any one of these hidden spaces, detected by the faint echo of a radio wave or a dip in electrical resistance, could be the sealed chamber that has eluded us for centuries. The search is no longer a blind guess in a vast desert. It is now a targeted investigation, guided by the whispers of technology, each promising to lead us one step closer to the ultimate prize. That silent electronic orchestra has found its most famous conductor in the charismatic and indefatigable Dr. Zahi Hawass. For decades, he has been the public face of Egyptian archaeology, and his personal quest has always been clear. He has stated repeatedly that discovering the tomb of Imhotep is his ultimate dream, the one find that would crown a legendary career. For a long time, this seemed like a romantic, perhaps unattainable goal. Then, in 2021, everything changed with a single, staggering announcement. Hawass and his team uncovered the lost Golden City near Luxor, a sprawling urban settlement buried for 3,400 years. The city of Aten was not just a few walls and pottery shards. It was a metropolis frozen in time, with neighborhoods, bakeries, workshops, and administrative buildings all left remarkably intact. The discovery was a thunderclap that echoed through the entire field of archaeology. It proved a fundamental truth that many had started to doubt. The sands of Egypt were not yet exhausted. They could still conceal entire cities, perfectly preserved, waiting just beneath the surface. This was not a tomb, but something arguably more fragile and rare. If a city of mud brick could survive for millennia, then why not the specific, sacred tomb of a god? The discovery of the Golden City did more than just make headlines. It injected a new, tangible hope into the search for Imhotep. It validated the very premise that Hawass had always championed. There are still monumental discoveries to be made, and they are found not by random luck, but by a deliberate, strategic return to the most promising ground. This renewed conviction has refocused his efforts squarely on the area around the step pyramid at Saqqara. His current strategy is a masterclass in modern archaeological thinking. He is not simply digging new holes in untouched desert. Instead, he is leading a comprehensive reinvestigation of the known world. His teams are systematically scanning every inch of the step pyramid's massive enclosure and the surrounding mastaba fields with ground-penetrating radar and electrical resistivity tomography. They are looking for the subtle anomalies that previous generations, armed only with shovels, could never have detected. He combines this high-tech sweep with a fresh, critical look at the old excavation records from Firth, Quibble, and Lauer. He is asking new questions of old data. Why did Lauer find those deep bull burials here? What does the precise alignment of that long collapsed wall suggest? It is a process of connecting dots that were mapped a century apart. Hawass is essentially conducting a cold case investigation, treating the entire Saqqara plateau as a crime scene where the ultimate prize is not a perpetrator, but a burial. He operates on the belief that the early excavators, for all their brilliance, were like men trying to read a book in the dark. They felt the broad shape of the story, but they missed the crucial footnotes and the hidden chapters. Now, with the lights on, we can finally see the full text. Every strange echo on the radar, every unexplained electrical signature, is a potential sentence in that lost chapter, a clue that could lead directly to the retreat of the master architect himself. The discovery of a lost city proved that the impossible is still possible. The search for a lost tomb is the thrilling application of that very proof. Nestled at the foot of the very plateau where his genius first took shape, the Imhotep Museum stands as a modern tribute to the ancient master. This is not a warehouse of relics, but a carefully curated space dedicated to a single man's monumental legacy. Inside its cool, quiet halls, you can walk among the actual tools and stone vessels used in the construction of the step pyramid, feeling the tangible connection to the workers who brought his vision to life. Yet among all these treasures, one particular piece of inscribed stone draws scholars into a fierce and ongoing debate. The artifact is a fragment of a larger stela, its surface covered in finely carved hieroglyphs praising Imhotep's divine powers. Most of the text is a familiar litany of honors, but one cluster of symbols stands out. It describes a place referred to as the Mansion of the Ka, a spiritual anchor point for the architect's soul. The central question is brutally simple. Is this mansion a real, physical location, or is it purely a metaphor for his eternal spirit? Those who believe it is a real place point to the specific, almost topographic nature of the surrounding glyphs. They seem to reference a western hill and a northern water source, geographical markers that could, in theory, be matched to a specific wadi or cliff face near Saqqara. For these researchers, this inscription is a cryptic treasure map, a deliberate clue left by the very priests who tended his cult, ensuring that future generations would never truly lose him. The other camp argues just as passionately that we are reading it too literally. In their view, The mansion of the Ka is a theological concept, not an address. A Ka was a person's life force, their spiritual double, and its mansion was a ritual space for offerings, not a tomb. To treat this as a geographical clue, they warn, is to fall for a poetic red herring, chasing a metaphor deep into the desert on a wild goose chase. This is the essence of Egyptology, a science built on fragments and fueled by interpretation. A single line of text can split the academic world in two, one side seeing a literal blueprint, the other a sacred poem. The frustrating and beautiful truth is that both could be right. The ancient Egyptians saw no hard division between the physical and the spiritual world. A place could be both a real chamber cut into rock and a metaphysical mansion for the soul. So the search continues, not in spite of the ambiguity, but because of it. Every potential clue, no matter how obscure, must be pursued with equal parts hope and skepticism, for the solution to this 5,000-year-old mystery may be hidden in plain sight, waiting within the quiet walls of his own museum. The search for Imhotep's tomb is not an isolated obsession. It is part of a grand, global treasure hunt for the final resting places of history's most iconic figures, a high-stakes competition against time and obscurity. Consider the century-spanning quest for the tomb of Alexander the Great. This Macedonian conqueror died in Babylon and was said to have been interred in a golden sarcophagus within a mausoleum in Alexandria, Egypt. For centuries, his tomb was a site of pilgrimage for Roman emperors, and then it vanished completely. The search for Alexander has employed every tool imaginable, from scouring ancient texts in monastic libraries to using satellite imagery to scan beneath the modern city. This global effort has refined the very techniques used in Egypt, proving how a single, legendary target can push entire fields of science forward. The methodologies developed to peer through urban sprawl for Alexander are the same ground-penetrating radar systems now deployed at Saqqara. Another legendary prize that echoes the Imhotep mystery is the tomb of Queen Nefertiti. The theory, championed by some archaeologists, suggests her chamber is hidden behind a wall in the tomb of King Tutankhamun. To investigate without damaging the priceless art, researchers have used sophisticated thermal imaging and radar scans. The results have been frustratingly ambiguous, sparking fierce debate. This parallel search demonstrates a critical lesson for the hunt at Saqqara. Sometimes, the technology is not the limiting factor, interpretation is. The same radar signal that shows a promising void in one expert's analysis is dismissed as a natural fissure by another. These competing quests create a virtuous cycle of innovation. A new type of muon tomography scanner, which uses cosmic rays to see through rock like a superpowered X-ray, might be tested in the Valley of the Kings for Nefertiti. Once proven, that same technology is immediately applied to the deep layers of the Step Pyramid enclosure. Every dead end in Alexandria and every contested anomaly in Thebes teaches searchers at Saqqara what to look for and, just as importantly, what to ignore. This transforms the search for Imhotep from a solitary dig into a collaborative, technological symphony. Finding his tomb would not just solve an Egyptian enigma, it would represent a triumph for this global network of explorers, validating decades of accumulated wisdom and cutting-edge science in the pursuit of legends. So what would we actually find if we finally broke the seal on his hidden chamber? Picture this moment of discovery, the first beam of light piercing a darkness undisturbed for 5,000 years. The air is still and cool, heavy with the scent of ancient dust and resin. Before anything else, our light would fall upon a sarcophagus, likely carved from a single, magnificent block of translucent alabaster or imposing red granite. This would be no ordinary coffin. It would be the final vessel for a man who became a deity, perhaps inscribed not just with his name and titles, but with intricate spells and hymns from a cult that worshipped him for centuries after his death. But the stone coffin, for all its grandeur, would merely be the outer shell of the true treasure. The real prize would be arrayed around it, the accumulated knowledge of a genius. We hope to find a library, not a few scattered scrolls, but a formal archive of papyrus texts, carefully preserved in sealed jars or within chests of cedar wood. These would be his original works, the scrolls he himself unrolled. One set of papyri could contain the complete architectural plans for the step pyramid complex, the first blueprints in history, showing calculations, labor allocations, and engineering solutions to problems we still struggle to understand today. Another set would be his medical texts, detailing diagnoses and treatments that would rewrite the history of medicine, proving how one man's mind could advance human health by centuries. And perhaps there would be more philosophical writings or astronomical observations that we never knew he composed. Beyond the papyri, the chamber would hold the offerings of the faithful. Statues of the god Imhotep would stand guard, depicting him as a wise scribe with a papyrus unrolled on his lap. There would be exquisite jewelry, ritual vessels, and amulets left by pilgrims and priests seeking his divine favor. These objects would tell the story not of his death, but of his everlasting life in the hearts and minds of his people. Finding the tomb of Imhotep would be far more than an archaeological triumph. It would be like discovering the source of the Nile for Egyptian science and art. For centuries, we have been studying the river's flow, the civilization it sustained. This discovery would be the moment we finally found the spring, the pure, undiluted source from which so much of their genius originally sprang. Breaking the seal on that chamber would do more than satisfy our curiosity. It would fundamentally rewrite the first chapter of Egypt's grand story, offering us the engineer's own notes on how he built the impossible. For the first time, we would see the step pyramid not as a silent monument, but as a living project. His personal ledgers could reveal the logistics of a state-level endeavor, detailing how many workers were conscripted, how they were fed and housed, and how stone was quarried and transported on a scale never before attempted. We would learn the administrative genius behind the stones, understanding the Old Kingdom not just as an age of pyramids, but as a sophisticated, organized nation capable of monumental public works. His architectural plans would be the ultimate key, solving riddles that have puzzled engineers for centuries. How did he calculate the precise angles and stresses without modern mathematics? What was the exact sequence of construction, and what ingenious, temporary supports did he use to keep the structure stable as it rose? These papyri would be the missing manual, transforming our view of ancient technology from one of mystery to one of comprehensible, brilliant engineering. The impact would be equally profound in the history of science. Imhotep's medical texts, written in his own hand, would predate the famous Hippocratic corpus by over 2,000 years. Imagine discovering that the foundational principles of Western medicine had their true, empirical roots in the mind of an Egyptian genius millennia earlier. His scrolls would likely detail diagnoses and treatments based on direct observation, moving beyond magic and into a systematic study of the human body. We might find case studies of specific ailments, lists of herbal remedies with their dosages, and even early surgical procedures. This would not merely push back the timeline of medicine, it would completely recenter it, proving that the scientific method of observation and deduction was being practiced at the dawn of civilization itself. His tomb would be a time capsule containing the original spark of two great human endeavors, architecture and medicine, revealing how one mind could lay the groundwork for millennia of progress. The story of Egypt, and indeed the story of human innovation, would forever be split into before and after this discovery. But this moment of discovery presents a profound and modern dilemma. Do we even open the tomb? The immense historical value of its contents is undeniable, yet so is the ethical responsibility we hold. What right do we have to disturb the eternal rest of a man worshipped as a god, even in the name of knowledge? The very act of breaking the seal could begin an irreversible process of decay. The perfectly preserved papyri we dream of finding could turn to dust within moments of exposure to our modern air, their priceless ink fading before our eyes. The subtle environmental balance that has protected organic materials for millennia would be shattered in an instant. This forces us to weigh two sacred duties against each other. Is our primary duty to uncover history for the living, or to preserve the sanctity of the past for its own sake? The principles of modern archaeology urge caution, reminding us that excavation is a form of destruction. Every layer we remove, every object we lift, forever alters a context that can never be recreated. Perhaps the greatest respect we can show Imhotep is to leave his retreat undisturbed, acknowledging that some mysteries are not meant to be solved. But what if we no longer have to choose between knowledge and preservation? A new wave of non-invasive technology offers a potential middle path. Imagine a scenario where ground-penetrating radar confirms a sealed chamber behind a stone wall. Instead of wielding sledgehammers, a team of engineers deploys a micro-robot, no larger than a child's hand. It navigates through a tiny, carefully drilled borehole, an aperture no wider than a pencil. This robot, equipped with a high-definition endoscopic camera and sophisticated environmental sensors, becomes our eyes and ears inside the tomb. It could float silently through the chamber, transmitting real-time images of the sarcophagus and any surrounding artifacts. It could sample the air to analyze its chemical composition, telling us the precise levels of humidity and gases that have preserved the space for so long. We could map the entire chamber in 3 dimensions without a single human foot ever setting foot inside. This approach would allow us to document the tomb's state with minimal intrusion, preserving its sealed context for future generations who will undoubtedly possess even more advanced and delicate technologies. We could satisfy our burning curiosity while still holding the door mostly closed, granting the architect a measure of the eternal privacy he may have always intended. The question then evolves. It is no longer simply whether we can find the tomb, but whether we possess the wisdom to explore it without causing the very loss we seek to prevent. That same rumor of a hidden tomb, the one that drives scientific inquiry, also echoes through the shadowy corridors of the black market. For every archaeologist meticulously brushing away sand, there is a looter with a shovel, motivated by a simple, destructive greed. The illegal antiquities trade is a multi-billion-dollar global enterprise, and the discovery of a site as legendary as Imhotep's tomb would set off an uncontrollable frenzy. Imagine the whispers spreading from a Cairo cafe to a Geneva auction house. The price on a single artifact confirmed to be from his burial chamber would be incalculable. This creates a desperate race, a countdown from the moment a potential location is identified. The archaeologists are bound by ethics, by the slow, careful process of documentation and preservation. The looters operate under no such rules. Their goal is speed and profit, and their methods are brutally efficient. They do not dig with trowels and brushes. They use backhoes and dynamite to tear through ancient walls, shattering pottery, pulverizing bones, and ripping artifacts from their resting places. A golden amulet is pried from a mummy's neck. A papyrus scroll is yanked from its jar and crumbles in untrained hands. In their rush, they destroy the very thing that gives these objects meaning, their context. An alabaster jar found in situ, resting next to a specific wall with other specific offerings, tells a story. That same jar, stripped of its surroundings and sold to a private collector, becomes merely a beautiful, silent object. Its story is lost forever. The greatest tragedy is not the theft of gold, but the destruction of knowledge. A looter's tunnel driven through the wrong section of a tomb wall could obliterate the one inscription that held the key to the entire complex, a name or a title that would have confirmed the occupant. This has happened countless times across Egypt. A tomb is discovered, but by the time authorities arrive, it is a hollowed-out shell, its walls scarred with pickaxe marks, its floor littered with the fragments of what was once a coherent historical record. The search for Imhotep is therefore a high-stakes guardianship. It is not just about finding him, but about reaching him first, ensuring that his final retreat is read like a sacred text, not ransacked like a vault. Every day that passes without a definitive find is another day the looters are also searching, listening for the same whispers, waiting for their chance to tear a page from history for a private price. This ancient obsession has found a strange and powerful new life far from the desert sands, in the flickering glow of the cinema screen. The modern world was introduced to Imhotep not through dusty textbooks, but through his terrifying resurrection in the Mummy film franchise. Here, the architect and healer is utterly transformed into a vengeful, love-struck priest, a monster who brings the 10 plagues of Egypt down upon anyone who disturbs his slumber. It is a complete inversion of his true historical character. trading wisdom for dark magic and healing for a cursed, decaying visage. The irony is staggering. A man celebrated for millennia as a source of knowledge and medical aid is recast in the popular imagination as the very source of pestilence and fear. Yet this monstrous makeover has had an unintended and profound consequence. It made his name a household word. For millions, their first and only encounter with the name Imhotep was through this cinematic spectacle of scarabs and sandstorms. That visceral, thrilling introduction created a powerful brand of recognition, a hook that has drawn countless people into the real story behind the Hollywood fiction. The films, for all their creative liberties, acted as a global advertisement for an otherwise obscure ancient figure. They sparked a curiosity that leads from the popcorn-filled theater to the archaeology documentary, from fear to fascination. This pop culture fame generates a tangible wave of public support. It translates into museum ticket sales when exhibits on ancient Egypt tour the world. It drives viewership for television specials about new discoveries at Saqqara. It encourages donations to archaeological funds and universities, fueling the very research that seeks to find the real man. People who first shivered at the movie monster become genuinely invested in uncovering the truth about the historical genius. They want to separate the fact from the frightening fiction, to understand how a god of medicine could become a cinema specter. This public engagement creates a feedback loop of interest and funding, ensuring that the search for the real tomb continues, powered as much by modern myth as by academic pursuit. The quest is no longer confined to scholars and explorers. It is a story shared by a global audience, all wondering which version of Imhotep they will finally see revealed when the last stone is lifted. The dust had barely settled on the discovery of the lost Golden City when the sands of Saqqara yielded another spectacular secret. In 2022, a team of Egyptian archaeologists unearthed a cluster of lavishly decorated tombs just a stone's throw from the step pyramid's enclosure wall. These were not the burials of commoners, but of the highest-ranking officials from the Old Kingdom, men who would have served the pharaohs just generations after Imhotep himself walked these grounds. One tomb belonged to a man named Khnumjadef, a priest and supervisor of nobles, his walls covered in scenes of daily life so vibrant they seemed to have been painted yesterday. Another, even more magnificent, was the final resting place of a palace official named Mary, who held the title of Keeper of the Secrets and Head of the Great House. His tomb is a masterpiece of color, with intricate hieroglyphs and statues depicting him and his family, frozen in an eternal embrace. The sheer quality and preservation of these tombs sent a shockwave through the archaeological community. They were found in an area previously thought to be well mapped, a stark reminder that Saqqara still holds pristine chambers, completely overlooked for millennia. While these were not the tomb of Imhotep, each new discovery acts like a puzzle piece, snapping into a vast, incomplete picture. Every beautifully preserved wall, every inscribed name, helps experts refine the sacred geography of this necropolis. We learn where the elite of Imhotep's own time chose to be buried, the precise artistic styles and architectural layouts they favored. This knowledge is a powerful filter. It allows archaeologists to eliminate certain types of tombs and locations from the search, narrowing the field with every new find. The tomb of Mary, the keeper of the secrets, is particularly symbolic. It whispers that the greatest secret of all, the retreat of the master architect, might be hidden in a similarly undisturbed state, waiting in a nearby plot of sand for the right team, the right technology, and the right moment to finally reveal itself. Deep beneath the sand, a labyrinth of tunnels echoes with the silence of a forgotten ritual. This is the Ibis Galleries, an underground city of the dead dedicated not to kings, but to birds. For centuries, priests descended into these cool, dark passages to inter millions of mummified ibises and baboons in millions of dedicated pots, stacked from floor to ceiling in niches carved from the living rock. The sheer scale is overwhelming, a devotional act repeated so many times it becomes a geological layer of faith. Why would such immense effort be devoted to these creatures? The answer lies in the divine connection. The ibis, with its long, curved beak, was considered a living manifestation of Thoth. the god of wisdom, writing, and magic. And here the threads of our mystery entwine. Imhotep, the deified architect, was so closely associated with Thoth's domains of knowledge and healing that he was often depicted with the sacred ibis itself. He was the wise scribe, the divine physician, the ultimate scholar. His sacred animal was the ibis. This symbolic link ignites a compelling theory. Could these endless catacombs, this sprawling monument to the ibis, contain a hidden chamber dedicated to their ultimate patron? Some researchers propose that the most sacred relic of all, the tomb of Imhotep himself, might be concealed within this maze. The logic is beautifully symbolic. What better place to hide the wise sage than in the heart of a library of his own sacred animal, a divine aviary guarding its master for eternity? The physical layout of the galleries lends credence to the idea. The catacombs are not fully mapped. There are blocked passages, sealed niches, and sections that collapse before they can be fully explored. A hidden, sealed chamber, perhaps disguised as just another animal niche or tucked away at a dead end, could easily remain undetected. The constant, ancient traffic of priests and pilgrims bringing new mummies would have provided the perfect cover for the creation and concealment of such a space. The theory forces us to reconsider what a tomb for a god might look like. It might not be a grand, pyramid-style monument. It could be a simple, austere room, its entrance indistinguishable from the thousands of other burial niches, its true identity known only to the highest initiates of the cult. The greatest secret could be hiding in the most crowded place, lost in a chorus of silent, beaked sentinels. The blank spots on the Saqqara map are shrinking with every passing season. In the coming years, a new generation of missions is preparing to sweep across these final frontiers, with a technological arsenal far beyond anything we have seen before. International teams from Egypt, Japan, and Europe are coordinating wide-area surveys, planning to scan entire sectors of the plateau with multi-frequency ground-penetrating radar. This is not a random search. They are targeting specific geological seams and areas of subsidence, places where the bedrock may have naturally collapsed over hidden chambers, creating telltale dips in the landscape invisible to the human eye. The goal is to create a complete, three-dimensional digital twin of the entire necropolis, a virtual Saqqara that archaeologists can walk through and analyze from their computers, pinpointing anomalies with surgical precision. But the real revolution may lie not in the sensors, but in the software. Artificial intelligence is now being trained to consume this colossal flood of data. These AI systems can process millions of radar echoes and electrical readings, learning to distinguish between a natural fissure in the rock, a looter's tunnel, and the distinct signature of a man-made burial shaft. They can cross-reference these subterranean maps with every known ancient text and inscription that mentions Imhotep, searching for linguistic patterns and forgotten place names that might correlate to a physical location. The eye can read 1,000 papyri in the time it takes a scholar to read one, searching for that one crucial mention of a western hill or a northern water source that matches the geology of a specific blank spot on the map. This is no longer a simple dig. It is a grand synthesis of silicon and sand. The convergence of these tools creates an unprecedented moment of possibility. We are on the verge of moving from educated guesses to data-driven certainty. The next big discovery might not come from a lucky stroke of a pick, but from a silent algorithm flagging a single, irresistible anomaly deep beneath the sand. The next excavation season could be the one that finally ends the search, uncovering the retreat of the master architect not by chance, but by the deliberate, brilliant calculation he himself would have admired. This 5,000-year journey began with a single mind, a royal vizier whose vision reached for the heavens and built the first pyramid. We have followed his transformation from mortal genius to a god of healing, a legend so powerful his final resting place became history's most stubborn secret. We have traced the clues left on weathered stones and explored the high-tech tools now scanning the earth for his hidden chamber. This is more than an archaeological quest. It is a pursuit of a legacy, a hunt for the very source of Egyptian science and art. To find the tomb of Imhotep would be to open a door to the dawn of civilization itself, to read the original blueprints of a revolution and the medical texts of a pioneer. It would stand as one of the greatest discoveries of all time, a window into the mind of the man who taught humanity to build in stone and to heal with knowledge. The desert still holds its secrets. What do you think we will find? Share your theories in the comments below. Subscribe for more ancient mysteries, and remember, history is not just about the past, it is about what is still waiting to be uncovered.